Hi everyone, my name's Matthew and this is the second episode of Matthew Answers the Internet, the show on Watch It Played, where I peruse the internet for questions about board games and the board game hobby, and then don't answer them where I'm meant to and instead answer them here in this video. Does 2 episodes of something constitute a series? No. And the first question is, what do you wish you knew earlier before buying a game? I wish I knew Castles of Burgundy had a newer release. I like this question because, you know, it's happened to all of us where we've bought a game and we've gone, I should have waited just 10 seconds and bought this version of a game or this sequel, that type of thing. I do wish I knew I was such a completionist when I bought Yinch. Now I've got all 7 of them. I know I haven't got Tamsk, but it's not technically part of the gift series, but I do obviously still want it. I also wish I knew that board games were such a rabbit hole when I first got into them, because I thought, board games, they look fun, don't they? Now look at me. My life's work. I think the thing that I wish I knew the most, though, is when you buy a game and then you find out it's getting a reprint. You can't avoid that. It's going to happen. I bought Fjords recently, and then I found out that it was getting reprinted. I kind of just found out that the Palaces of Carrara are getting a reprint. That's a fantastic game. Glad it's getting a reprint. But I already have it, and it took me ages to hunt a copy down. I mean, can I be upset that I already own a game? No, probably not. I actually just want more people to play it. But, you know, it still feels bad. You know, just that little bit. You kind of wish I should have waited. There is, of course, the fact that there are those times where you buy a game and then you realise it's just not for you and you don't like it. I wish I could guarantee that I liked a game before I bought it, which you can do by playing the game before you buy it. I do realise this, but that's not normally how the process of actions go in my life. I mean, most of the time I feel like I've done my due diligence and worked out whether I like a game or not, but sometimes, you know, I wish I could guarantee I like that game. That's just not how life works, right? There's no way to avoid it sometimes. Sometimes you get burnt on a game that you thought looked cool, and other people probably loved it, right? It's just that you didn't quite like it. But the main thing I wish, and it's not before buying a game, I wish I knew about board games 15 years ago and not 6 or 7 years ago. That's what I wish. I wish I could have got into this hobby earlier and then bought up all those games that are now out of print. Oh yeah, have a massive stack of Battlestar Galactica and glory to Rome. This is a great question to answer in the comments below. So if there's anything that you wish you knew before buying a game, let us know in the comments below, and let's all dwell on our misfortune.
Ooh, as much as I would love to stay and focus on Matthew's misfortune, this episode is sponsored in part by Thunderbolts, the final installment in the Civil War story arc for the Versus System 2-player card game from Upper Deck. This card set features the Thunderbolts, a team of powerful supervillains turned heroes who are almost certainly, probably completely rehabilitated. So what could go wrong? Treacherous tactics and maligned motivations abound as this powerful team of reformed villains joins your deck to dish out some justice. Adding some spice to the roster in this release are characters like Bullseye, who can attack protected characters, and Taskmaster, who gains the keyword abilities of all other supporting characters in combat. Find the Thunderbolts extension for the Versus System 2-player card game at your friendly, but perhaps secretly villainous, local game store, and by following the link in this video's description to upperdeckstore.com.
The second question is, how is the shipping crisis actually affecting the board game industry? Now, I do not know the answer to that other than the fact that the shipping crisis is affecting the board game industry. So I reached out to Danielo, the marketing manager at Pandasaurus Games. She was kind enough to send me this video to tell you and me all about it.
Hi, I'm Danny Lowe, the marketing manager for Pandasaurus Games. We make games like Dinosaur Island, The Mind, Machikoro, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And we are just one of many publishers being affected by the global shipping crisis. You've probably heard announcements from us or other publishers about delayed releases this year, no releases this year. There's a whole ripple effect happening. And this all stems from the container shortage that's currently happening. Basically, over the past 18 months, there's been an imbalance of shipments to and from China, where a large portion of board game manufacturing is based, so that there aren't enough shipping containers to fit the games that we've already paid, printed, packaged. They're just waiting in the staging area of our factories, waiting to be put on a boat and shipped to their final destination. So there are not enough containers. Container prices are rising, supply and demand. This is forcing us to make some really tough decisions. In past years, containers cost about $5,000 to book. And this was a 40-foot container, which is large enough to print a solid print run of a game. Now they're costing $20,000. We're being quoted upwards of $30,000. So there's two decisions, basically. Do you bite the bullet and pay the exorbitant cost so you can get your game sooner? Or do you wait it out and hope that prices return to normal soon? However, soon has a big ol' asterisk. We have no idea when things will level out. It's looking like it'll last throughout the rest of the year. Now, if publishers do decide to bite the bullet, that is 4, 5, 6 times the expected price. Not every publisher can eat that cost. So there's going to be a ripple effect of other decisions. Maybe publishers are increasing the MSRP, the sale price of their game. Perhaps they are reducing the margins of their partners, the game stores and the game distributors. There are a ton of different directions that publishers can choose to go into. None of them are wrong. It's it's fight to survive right now for everyone. So, like I said, we don't know when this will end. Hopefully by the end of the year. But in the meantime, I ask that you support your game stores, support your favorite publishers, practice patience and compassion and understanding, because all we want to do is get games to you and play the dang games ourselves too. We're trying our best.
Danny, thank you so much for helping me out and answering that question for us and enlightening me to a situation that does not sound fun at all. And I do think that we can all just extend a little bit of grace and patience, because it's not really affected me that bad, if I'm being perfectly honest, other than the game I want, isn't out. Which is probably fine. The next question I have is, I always see thrift store finds, but I can't for the love of me find any myself. Am I cursed? Now, I can't answer the last part of the question. You might be cursed. I don't know. Did you annoy any magical cats? These are important facts that you've not added into the question. But I can tell you a bit about thrift store finding of games, as we in the UK call them charity shops, because I am addicted to going into thrift stores and charity shops hunting for board games. I love it. And that's the first bit of advice. You have to really enjoy going into thrift stores and charity shops to have any success finding board games, because you have to go in a lot. I've had some pretty good success. I found Pitch Car, I found a copy of Carcassonne, I found a copy of Twilight Struggle that was still in the shrink. That was a good day. I enjoyed that one a lot. I've got 2 Reiner Knizia games. I've got Ingenious, and I found a copy of Taj Mahal. But there are some things to know. Often in thrift stores there were sellotape, scotch tape, boxes closed, right? So you can't look inside of them. So you have to kind of really think, does this box look in good condition? Because the contents might be reflected by the outside of the box. But I did once buy a copy of Hero Quest, which I thought was really good for 20 quid when it was completely out of print and was never getting reprinted. Again, then it did get reprinted, as we all know. And I tell you, when I opened that box up, it was full of half of the components of the game. Most of those were damaged. It was very badly painted. There was no dice, It was not a great buying experience. But that is the risk you take when going thrift store hunting. But you really have to like it, because persistence is the key to thrift store finds. You have to want to go in, you have to enjoy going in, and you have to go in consistently. I tend to do the charity shop round once a week. I enjoy doing it. And the thrill of the hunt, the thrill of the chase, Nothing feels as good as walking into a charity shop and finding a board game that you like that's still in shrink for like £3 and you go, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. This makes me feel alive. If you've got any amazing thrift store, charity shop finds, let me know what they are so we can all be jealous together in the comments. I think that would be fun. I've told you mine. I think Twilight Struggle was probably the best one I got. Ah, what a day. I just walked. It was just right there. I felt like I was robbing the place, if I'm honest. The next question is another one that I'd love your opinion on in the comments below. And that is, if you could get any game reprinted, what would it be? Vassal's law, from Tom Vassal's mouth, is that any good game will get reprinted. And I think by and large, 99% of the time, that is probably true. If a game's truly fantastic, it'll probably get a reprint, but some won't. There's licensing problems, you know, people don't own the IP anymore. That's often a problem. Or maybe the author of the game, the designer of the game, has passed away and now their rights live in limbo. Those are things that can happen, but if I could have my dream and get any games reprinted, you better believe I've got a list. Vegas Showdown. I'd get that game reprinted. Vegas Showdown's a really good bidding game, but it doesn't look fantastic. It could be such a good like master reprint of that game where they really up the quality of the components because the gameplay is wonderful. The same I feel for Amitis, which is a game by Istari Games. Wow, one of my favourite games ever. It's absolutely brilliant. And it's a game of cards and going around this track to do actions, and you're trying to collect sets of things, but you're also trying to build up these hanging gardens. It's a wonderful game, but it doesn't look great, if I'm honest. The Palaces of Carrara was on this list, and since writing this list, they have announced a reprint, so that's pretty nice. Another game I'd love to see a reprint is The Downfall of Pompeii. That's a fantastic game where in the first half you're putting people out onto the board, and the second half you're trying to get them off the board because Pompeii is exploding. It's an absolute cutthroat game. It's devious, but it's light, it's fun. Jeez, it's such a good game. If I had my own publishing company, Downfall of Pompeii would be one of the first games I would attempt to get the rights to. But there's so many games I wish would get a reprint. So many games, so little time, but there's so many wonderful ones. If you've got any that you can think of, put them in the comments below. And the last question I have is, how much replayability does a game need to be worth buying? I find this question really, really interesting because I've often said that board games are one of the best value hobbies you can get yourself into, right? I mean, obviously a deck of cards can, a million games that you can play for the rest of your life, but other than hiking boots or like a cheap guitar, the value for money out of board games for a hobby, I think is actually pretty good. Now, collecting board games is a very different hobby to playing board games, but I think playing board games is a really good value hobby. I often liken it to how much does it cost a family of 4 to go to the cinema, which is something, or go get takeout for the night. Is it about the same as buying a board game? Yes, and you go to the cinema once or you eat that meal once, but the board game you'll have, you can play it over and over again, and it might still be worth something if you end up selling it at the end of it. Which is why I think replayability is the most important with those family weight entry-level games, those games that are accessible games for everybody, games like Carcassonne and Catan and Alhambra and Takenoko, those type of games. I feel like those are the ones that I want them to be as replayable as possible because I want a family to buy that game, and I want them to be able to play it again and again and again and love it time after time after time. Their replayability is crucial. But for me, how many times do I play Fire in the Lake, which is the only game on this whole shelf you can't see? Why did I pick it? How many times can I play Yido? But it's probably not as important. I want to play that a few times and enjoy it, and then I think I'm fine with that. So it really depends on who's playing the game, why they bought it, and what their financial situation is, right? This also comes up with legacy games. And things like Pandemic Legacy, you know, you play that 12 times if you win every one, which, you know, you're probably not going to, but, oh, well, then you can't play it anymore. Firstly, it's rare that I play any of my games 12 times. And secondly, you had such a wonderful experience playing the game, assuming you enjoyed it. But I do think that for the general consumer, I really do want games to be as replayable as possible. so you can return to it again and again and again and enjoy it and enjoy that purchase you made. But sometimes you watch a film and you don't want to watch that film anymore. Or sometimes you put on that pair of hiking boots and you realise that the soul has finally tread through. I think it's unfair to ask games to be infinitely replayable, but I do think they should be very replayable, if that's how they've been advertised, for sure. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Matthew Answers the Internet. Thank you so much again to Danny Lowe from Pandasaurus Games for coming on and answering a question that I just couldn't. I appreciate that so much. If you've got any answers to any of these questions, put them in the comments. I can't wait to read and see what you've got to say. And until next time, thank you so much for watching and take care.